You guys may be seated. I know this seems like I'm walking protocol and coming closer to you all, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right to be so far removed.
6 feet.
6 feet. 6 feet. It feels wrong to be so far removed. I feel like, I don't know, these days we're kind of in it together. Man. I don't know, the whole, okay, stay here. The whole world seems turned upside down. At least that's what my wife Kendra and I said to each other. Just the other day, just Friday, as we held hands and we walked through a forest preserve by our house late on Friday evening. And neither of us at that moment, neither of us had our phones on us. Right? We had been on them or on our computers and in conversations with people all day. I mean, this week it's been like a bad dream, a nightmare, right? But Friday, among all the days, seemed set apart. I mean, Friday is when the president declared a state of emergency. Friday is when our governor declared that all the schools across the state would be closed for the foreseeable future. Friday is when I remember I sat with our preschool director here at St. Timothy, and we must have been up to each other's offices 20 times that day, wondering if the schools were going to close, wondering what we were going to do next week, how we're going to pay the teachers, if we're going to give money back to parents. Friday is when we as a congregation decided to kind of follow the schools and cancel programming for children and youth. A hard decision to make. And Friday, I just sat there. I'm sure as many of you have done this week, and I just hit refresh. I just hit refresh on the news, and I read email chains, and I was just on these long text message threads. I took phone calls and made phone calls and more calls. And when I finally got home, late on Friday night, I needed a break. I needed a break. I needed to step outside with my wife and our dog, Connie. I needed to feel that late winter crisp air. I needed to hear the birds. I needed to see the sky change as the sun set. I need to look my very pregnant wife in the eye and ask the question we were both thinking. What kind of world? What kind of world is our baby going to come into? And the whole thing it seems turned upside down. I mean, according to everything I'm hearing, and I'm sure you're hearing and reading, the break I so long for and desire, I don't know if it's coming soon. I mean, sure, we can do everything we can in cancellations and limiting large gatherings and implementing hygienic social practices in smaller gatherings like the ones we have here at church today, but as Friday and now Saturday come to a close, I wonder what Sunday and Monday and Tuesday will hold. And the week after that. And the week after that. And as I wonder, I'm actually certain of one thing. That when those days comes, I'll need a break from them too. Right? I want a break from the runs on toilet paper and walking to the grocery store and just seeing empty chicken sections. I want a break from checking the numbers rise from hundreds to thousands. I want a break from hearing about sickness and death. That's what I want. And sometimes I think I want it so bad that I'm just going to hole up. You're not going to see me again. I'm just going to hole up and hoard enough food for the next few weeks and shut a blind eye to all of it. Because I'm scared. I feel panic. I want to make sure. I want to make sure that I have enough food to eat and toilet paper to use. And I don't want the sickness and death to come anywhere close to me and my wife and our baby. But there's another thing I want too. I want to be a Christian throughout this whole pandemic too. I want to make sure that while pandemics might kill lives, And while we all get the breaks we need in order to stay safe and stop the spread and stop the devastation and to recharge our weary and bone-tired hearts and minds, that this pandemic, in the words of David Brooks of the New York Times, that it doesn't kill our compassion. And it doesn't kill our hope. Because this week I heard many, as you have, politicians and pundits talk about what's going on across our globe. And some have naively tried to assure us that, everything will be okay. And some have stoked the flames of urgency and fear in ways that I think are closer to fear-mongering than anything that's helpful. Some have tried to spin facts and figures to make them say what they want. Some are just lost and confused and just trying to do their best. And in all the words that I've heard and read this past week, I want to share a few that I actually really needed to hear. And the funny thing is, the words weren't spoken this past week, or the week before that, or even in a world that knew anything about this particular coronavirus. The words are actually, and maybe you see this coming, the words are actually from Martin Luther, from the year 1527. And I heard them in actually our presiding bishop's message to the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. She quoted Brother Martin's text from the year 1527. Because that happened to be the year when the plague ran back through the small, tiny town of Wittenberg, Germany, 200 years after Black Death took out 40% of continental Europe. And word got out to Wittenberg that the plague was back. And people were understandably anxious and they were worried. And Luther, he entitled his letter to the town, he said, he kind of cut right to the point. The title was this: Whether One May Flee from a Deadly Plague. That's his letter. And he said this. He emphasized the duty Christians have to care for neighbors, the responsibility of government to protect and provide service to its citizens. He cautioned against recklessness and brazen self-interest. And he advocated for the importance of science and just common sense. There's a quote from a Yale historian, Frank Snowden, writing a book about epidemics and pandemics. And he said this. He said, pandemics, they hold up a mirror. They hold up a mirror to society, and they force us to ask very basic questions about human existence. And some of these are his questions, and some of these are mine. But what's our responsibility to one another? What's possible in the face of imminent sickness or death? What kind of world do babies come into? Where's God in all this? And I want to suggest that, friends, these questions don't have to go unanswered. And in fact, they shouldn't go unanswered. Just for what it's worth, here are some of my thoughts. Here's what I've been thinking about. As I already said, I want a break. But I have decided that I want a break, as one pastor put it, that's more like a Sabbath. Not just a closure from everything that's going on, but a time for thinking big thoughts about my love of God and neighbor. More so than an opportunity to shut my mind off from the cares and needs of the world. And while it becomes increasingly clear that the best thing to do for our collective health is to limit time in public and in large mass groups, I also don't want to lose my sense of Christian compassion. I don't want to look at the mounting costs of human life or financial uncertainty or ruin and think nothing could be done or should be done as long as I'm safe. God is calling us, as God called Martin Luther, to be a voice of good when so little feels good. I want to be able to ask those big questions and hopefully find some answers. I mean, that's ultimately why we decided not to shut our doors completely for worship today. We need a space. We need the hope that our faith promises, even in the face of questions like these. As our presiding bishop suggests, many of our people have the same concerns as those in Luther's day. Most of us are anxious. Some of us are afraid. And Luther's counsel, based on Scripture, it's still sound. Right? Here's what he said: respect the disease, don't take unnecessary risks, provide for the spiritual and physical care of the neighbor, make use of medical aid, care for one another, especially the most vulnerable. I feel like I could keep going. I've had so many thoughts this week, but I want to end with by telling you about 3 separate conversations that I had on Friday. And I know I just told you that by the end of Friday, I didn't want to have any more conversations, but these are ones that I had all day. And one was in person, one was on the phone, one was a conversation by email. Right? There's 3 things I needed a break from. But this is why we really can't shut ourselves off completely. Those 3 people that contacted me throughout the day, and they all said the exact same thing, the very same thing. Completely independently. They each said, how can our church, even in our limited capacity, and with people staying home, and probably many who should be staying home, and hopefully they do, but with the few of us who even gathered here on Saturday night, how can we help those in need? That's what they said. Specifically, right, if the same children who have a pre-planned break every Christmas time get food that we provide as a congregation, and all of a sudden they're staring at months, maybe, of a break, we need to do something. It's not much, but if we do a little, we can help a lot. The shelves may be empty, our fear may be trickling in, fewer people are going to come to church, but we can still be Christians. You know, in our 2 readings from the day, in the wilderness, when people were dying of thirst, Moses hit the rock to show the face of God's compassion. At the well, Jesus, he shook off common convention and erased the suspicion between Jews and Samaritans that they shouldn't meet with one another by promising this woman living water to all people. In the 16th century Germany, followers of Luther chose to stay and help in the face of fear and uncertainty. And at St. Timothy, even as we find ways to take needed breaks, to cancel some things, we still have time to act with integrity and safety. And keep living in the love of Christ. Because if we continue to do that, hopefully the world will remain right side up.